Way up in the sky, the little birds fly, while down in the nest, the little birds rest. With the wing on the left, tweet, tweet, and a wing on the right, tweet, tweet, the little birds sleep all through the night. Shh, they're sleeping. The bright sun comes up, the dew falls away. Good morning, the little birds say.
Welcome, Camp Crosley friends and family, to the next episode of the Crosley Campfire Chats. And again, the purpose of what we do best, and that is to bring people together, despite the pandemic. And so our next guest for this episode is a prime example of what makes my job so fulfilling. I've been able to see this guest as a camper to a staff, and now back as an alumni, giving back to camp. And so I want to welcome former alumni Katie Tryniecki, but many of you may remember as Katie Teitgen when she was here at Camp Crosley. But certainly want to welcome Katie Tryniecki to this episode.
Thanks, Mark, and good pronunciation on both names.
Yes, I try. I really try. And so I'm glad I got it right from that standpoint. So you spent a lot of years at Camp Cross. So how many summers did you attend? If you can even remember or even remotely close, but how many summers? And I kind of went over a little bit, but what roles did you have on staff as well? Because you also had a lot of different roles, a lot of things that you did at camp.
Yeah, I probably had about 11 summers, but then some sort of involvement every year since. I started in 1998 as a camper. I was 10 years old and came with a family friend, Michelle Hennessy from Fishers. I like to think we were the start of the big Fishers, Indiana contingent that came to camp. Every year we would bring more friends with us and it would start expanding, and our siblings. But I did the whole camper for years, started with 1 week, then 2 weeks. I was a counselor in training, I was a volunteer, then I was on summer staff for a few years. And then in 2008, I also ran at the time, the SEALs program, and also worked outdoor ed groups. And now I'm on the advisory board and the alumni committee, so you can't get rid of me.
But we love having you here, so there's no reason for us to get rid of you. So so you spent a lot of years and you're still with Camp Crosley, again, like as you mentioned, with the Camp Crosley advisory board. So what is it about camp that wants you to come back year after year, summer after summer, whether it be as a camper, as a staff person, or even currently right now in your role as an advisory board member?
For me, there was never just one like profound camp experience that this, as a camper or a counselor, that this one thing made all the difference. For me, it was the overall Crosley experience, the Crosley family, the friendships that I had as a camper and especially as a counselor have been huge. They're a huge part of my life still today. So I think it's just the overall experience that the camp provides, to feel at home, to also get out of your comfort zone, and to really make some awesome friendships that have stuck with me.
So you mentioned the Camp Crosley family. Does that mean camper staff? Do you still keep in touch with some of the staff?
To me, that's everything, everyone. I still have, I have some of my former counselors that I've connected with on social media. I have kids I was campers with. My first year in 1998, we had a girl from California in our cabin, which is really cool when you're, from central Indiana. Elizabeth Bradford, she started coming back the same week as all of us. And then even when she stopped coming to camp, she visited family and we would connect. That was really neat. Counselors for sure. Formerly Nicole Roberts, was actually a counselor when I was still a camper, and then she came back years later and we got to work together. And then I studied abroad in Australia and spent time with her family. That was still 12 years ago since we've seen each other, and we stay connected through technology. We've both gotten married and had kids. I've video chatted with her kids, which is really fun. So that's great. There's Jen Violi, who we met in, I think it was 2007 when Jen started. She actually came for outdoor education before a summer, and I still think we scared her a little bit with, I don't know who was with me, if it was, if Grant was there or Matt Brubaker or Evie or some people who have been there for a while. And I think we scared her with our like camp excitement. But she stuck around and she's still one of my best friends. She was a bridesmaid in my wedding. She's my son's godmother. We, connect anytime she's in town, regardless of where she lives. We stay connected. And Adam Tharp. Adam, is obviously still at camp. His first year at camp was my first year on staff, and we've stayed friends and connected. We saw each other, find our spouses and get married. We've celebrated birthdays. We now celebrate our kids' birthdays. Our kids get together and play, which is really fun. So it's really neat for me to have all of these Crosley connections still in my life. Another one came up recently in August. We got together with KP, Kelsey Pence, and she took our family photos. And so my Christmas cards that just went out all are photos by KP. So.
Which is great because I also received them. So thank you very much for that Christmas card. So when camp says you make lifelong friends, I mean that's the truth. I mean, because a lot of what you're doing is and people that you're still interacting are individuals you met while at camp. So you are a true testament of when we say lifelong friends. I mean, man, that is truly happening for you.
Absolutely.
So
I can't wait till the day when Emmett Tharp and my son Ian are at camp together. Just wait, it will happen.
we may just have to separate those two in the cabins. They may not be cabin mates, and so we'll talk about that later on. That'll be a later discussion. But so many years, favorite camp memories.
Oh, it's hard. It's hard to pick one. There's so many great things. I always love Crosley sunsets. I have a Crosley sunset up there in my den here. That's always been a favorite. I've always loved campfires. I was never the most creative in the skits, but I got to witness some pretty awesome people. I spent a lot of years with Grant Jasper, so I saw some pretty awesome skits, and many others, and that was great. I feel like I got to see camp in all seasons. And I think that was really fun for me because I worked outdoor ed groups in the spring and fall. I've worked winter camp. I've done winter reunions with staff. And so that was always neat to get to experience it in all different seasons. Outdoor ed groups were fun too. I lived pretty close to camp. I went to school an hour away. So I was one that came for some outdoor ed groups. And I had some groups I worked with over the years and some of the teachers and staff I got to know. And it was fun and still connected with some on occasion. So that was neat. And it's crazy the things that stick with you too. Like I still feel rebellious when I wear flip-flops to camp, which I did when I came this summer. It just brings me a little joy to wear flip-flops to camp and break that rule. And I can't tell you how many years I had to I actually thought about if I said one of camp's S words that you couldn't say. There were years afterwards that you would say one of these things and be like, wait, I'm not allowed to say that. There's just a lot of, I still remember you teaching me for outdoor education, the triboluminescence, but in my head it goes triboluminescence. Like that's because Mark would drill it before we went on a night hike. So I remembered how to say it.
The many great things about camp and the behind the scenes things that a lot of these campers don't see. So now you're sharing all these tricks and tips, Katie. We won't go too much behind the scenes because we still want to make sure we create that magic at camp. So again, you finished school. You went to Notre Dame, finished up at Notre Dame. So what's life after camp? What has that been like for you?
Well, I ended up sticking around the South Bend, Mishawaka area. So I'm about an hour from camp. And I spent several years working at a small nonprofit called Hannah and Friends, working with individuals with special needs and doing all sorts of different things, kind of a jack of all trades. And I found I really enjoyed marketing. So I actually made a transition to focus on marketing for several years and really hone in on events and social media and websites and things. And I really loved that. But then I migrated back to a jack of all trades. I think that some of that the balancing of things you do at camp has kind of lended me to that, as I really enjoy those roles. So I work for Gibson. It's a small an insurance and risk management company based in South Bend. But now I support the CEO, and I do a little bit of everything, still social media, events, project management, all sorts of things. So I enjoy that. My husband I met at Notre Dame our senior year, and he ended up moving back to South Bend as well. He is a high school teacher at Marion High School and teaches English. And we have a 2-year-old, Ian. So really our world revolves around Ian right now, and enjoying everything that this age brings. And it's pretty fun right now with the holidays too.
So, thinking things through, and and you kind of touched base on this a little bit as well, but what were some of the things that you learned while at Crosley that helped you, and or assisted you in your job or in your daily life?
Mhm. I didn't end up like a teacher, end up as a teacher like a lot of our counselors did, right? But for me, I mean, even starting as a camper, the character traits were just kind of a base of just learning to be a good person, right? And just growing up with that strong base. I, started, obviously that was part of my family as well, but that was also starting at age 10. That was a huge part of every year for me. But I think my time on staff and as counselor, also just the confidence and the leadership and the communication was big. And that just doing a little bit of everything. You're getting out of your comfort zone, you're organizing people, you're balancing a schedule, all different things that I experienced are definitely part of my life now. And like I said, what I've tended to gravitate towards and focus on is being that kind of jack of all trades role, where I get to balance a lot of things and keep everyone organized.
So when we talked earlier, you're, like I said, this is what I enjoy, the fact that you're now back volunteering and giving time, your time and your talent, your treasures back to Camp Crosley. And with your, you've just been, I think, a little bit over a year on the Camp Crosley advisory board, but you've also been part of the alumni committee as well. So what's that been like, coming from that perspective, where again, it was always as a camper staff, but now you're giving back to camp? And well, first of all, what made you decide to do that? And then kind of explain, why do you keep doing that?
Well, I love camp, and I want camp to, be around and provide the same experiences that I had for children for years to come, and for my own children, right? I want that camp experience to continue. So if I can support that, I want to. I also have always loved that aspect of volunteering and being involved in nonprofits. And when I made the choice to leave that as a career, I knew I wanted to keep it as a major part of my life. So, camp is one of those ways that I can do that, is I can still put some of those skills and that interest I have in nonprofits to use in outside of my work life. And so that has been a great way to do that, is help use some of the things I've learned over the years in my camp experiences. But it's also neat to just, see some of the other perspectives, be able to connect with, on the advisory board, I'm connecting with people who've had, been involved with camp for so much longer than me, which is neat. To see their perspectives. And with the alumni committee, it's kind of, all different generations, and getting to stay in touch and see the changes and the growth that, that camp is going through is really neat as well.
So again, this wouldn't be an interview if we didn't talk about COVID and the pandemic a little bit. And so, with the COVID or pandemic, have you picked up any new hobbies, or what are some of the things that you've done during this time, of the pandemic?
Yeah, at times I was a little jealous of all the people who were like doing new hobbies or like cleaning everything out. And we were like, oh my gosh, how do we survive and work with a 2-year-old? So really everything has been centered around my son. We had about 2 months where we were all home, and that was rough, but also great. Like the memories that we have, the little things that we got to do with my son and see. He was a late walker and actually took his first steps while we were home during the pandemic. And I wouldn't have seen that if we weren't all home together. So there's some really great things like that. And we've been blessed with our jobs and our childcare to be able to, get back out there some. We've had times just thrown in between where we're all home again. And there's things that I wish I was taking my son to this place and that place, and things in my mind that I thought, I would be taking him more often to see my family, or places I grew up going, and that's not happening right now. But I just remind myself that my 2-year-old doesn't know the difference. He doesn't know that he didn't get to go, to the Children's Museum of Indianapolis, if I, even though I wanted to take him. He's just having a lot of fun. And so it's been nice for us to focus on, cherishing those little moments, as stressful as it is, trying to keep a 2-year-old entertained and balance everything that's going on in the world. It's really, we've been centered on him, and that's been great.
Good. Well, we're at the end of our interview here, Katie, and this is, I know, your favorite part. One of the things that we ask all of our guests is to end the interview with their favorite camp song. So I'm going to now pass the baton over to you, Katie, and I know you have a plethora of songs that you have heard throughout your time at camp. So I'm just interested to hear what song you decide.
Well, it sure isn't anything to do with your Ohio State songs or your what's that Oz Ziggy Zumba that you
Oh,
and
that's Bowling Green right there.
that's your Bowling
Katie,
Green one
yes.
that you and your brother-in-law would sing. Definitely not those. But actually, I was not known for my singing ability. I was more known for losing my voice and never having a voice at camp. Even like the moment I would walk onto camp property, it would just go away. But it's been really interesting. I was thinking about this, how much camp songs are re-entering my life now that I have a toddler. There's Baby Shark, of course, right? I'm like, wait, that's from camp. He got into reading We're Going on a Bear Hunt, that book, and in my head I sing, camp versions. The other day he asked me about a penguin song, and I realized it was the Penguin's Attention. And so they're just popping up everywhere. But I was partial to the morning songs. And so I taught my son the bird song a few weeks ago, and he likes it. Now he tries to do some of the motions with me. So I figured that's the one I would sing for you. Okay.
Go ahead.
Way up in the sky, the little birds fly, while down in the nest, the little birds rest. With the wing on the left, tweet, tweet, and a wing on the right, tweet, tweet, the little birds sleep all through the night. Shh, they're sleeping. The bright sun comes up, the dew falls away. Good morning, the little birds say.
Oh, that is a great rendition. And you didn't lose your voice, Katie. And so it was still there from beginning to the end. So man, that is awesome. And so I certainly want to thank our guest, Katie. And I hope that you join us for our next episode of the Crosley Campfire Chats. And I just want you all to remember that this is good night and not goodbye. Thank you.
Way up in the sky, the little birds fly, while down in the nest, the little birds rest. With the wing on the left, tweet, tweet, and a wing on the right, tweet, tweet, the little birds sleep all through the night. Shh, they're sleeping. The bright sun comes up, the dew falls away. Good morning, the little birds say.